Hi folks, this is Coloring Chemist. My name is Connie and welcome back to my channel. So this I'm going to call part 2.5 or maybe part 2 plus the bonus part, I don't know. My original Pitt Pen use video series was only supposed to be 2 videos, but I realized there were a few things that I forgot. I thought of a few things afterwards, so I just wanted to put out this sort of extra video just to, I don't know, tie up some loose ends, I guess. One of the things, and thank you to the viewer that asked this question in the comments, because I did totally and completely forget to show you, didn't I? The viewer asked if the Pitt Pens had gone through the Joanna Basford paper. And I showed on the Amazon paper and I showed in the Rita Berman paper that it didn't, but I did forget to show on the Joanna Basford paper. So I have the US and then the UK versions here. So we'll pull out the coloring that I did, and the US version I pulled out the color test page before, so. And I'm trying to think what we did. I think we did that leaf there, and that leaf, the bottom leaf there. So I'm going to zoom way in, just so you can get a good look. Hopefully the lighting's okay. So we're looking to see if that leaf there went through, and that bottom leaf there went through. And I don't see, oh, sorry, make sure I'm on camera here. I can see a bit of ghosting right there, but if I flip this over, that is, I think that's the flower. And you know what, I don't remember if that was Pitt Pens or not. Feels like it was. I will say that the US Joanna Basford paper, because it's a little bit less smooth. Now, this is the older US Joanna Basford paper. The Small Victories, the US and the UK have the same paper. Now, I don't know if that's going to be true for all her books going forward. I hope it is, because that would be great. I prefer the smoother UK paper. On the older US paper, because it is a little bit rougher, I do tend to find sometimes you get a little bit more ghosting with the Pitt Pens, particularly if you go over and over and over an area than you do on the UK. And if I had to guess from sort of a science perspective, for those of you that aren't aware, I'm a chemistry teacher, it's probably because on the rougher paper, you've got more of those little fibers that haven't been polished off the surface, so they're grabbing the ink and they're pulling it down in. I don't really know, but I'm guessing maybe that's part of it. But for the leaves that we did, yeah, I don't see where it went through. So that's the UK paper, or pardon me, the US paper. Here, oh, sorry, we're really zoomed in, but we'll stay there just so we can see. So there was what we did on the UK paper, and we did, I think we did all of this was Pitt Pens. This down here, you can see some scribbles. This was me using different types of markers. These are not Pitt Pens, and I'll show you in a second here. So I'll flip the page. Find where I am here. There we go. So up in the corner image, I see absolutely nothing. No ghosting, nothing. Even on, if you remember, I think it was this middle flower here. That top part, I kind of went over and over and over because I was trying to show how you could layer up the Pitt Pens and get a darker shade from the same color. I see nothing, nothing. So this, if this is the new paper, and I think it is, this is the paper that she's got in the Small Victories book, both US and UK. Yay for us Pitt Pen users. I'm just gonna move this. Let me see. You can see a tiny bit of ghosting right there. That's actually from those markers that I was trying. Those are, again, they're not Pitt Pens. I can't honestly remember what they are. But, you know, like I mentioned in the previous videos, Pitt Pens are a different beast than water-based markers. And that was another thing that I wanted to do, just a quick sort of demonstration, I guess. Someone in the video had mentioned something about, you know, taking the techniques from my video and applying them with water-based markers. And you know what? That's great. If that's what you're going to do, and that's what you have, you certainly can give it a try. The blending techniques and what have you. But the water-based markers are not going to react the same as Pitt pens. And I will see if I can demonstrate that. Oh, sorry, the camera's having a hard time. Yeah. So I pulled out some tombows. So these are, sort of your typical, well, I mean, they're probably more pricey, but your brush tipped water-based pens, right? And let's see if we can do a little bit of coloring on this tint down here. It's going to be green, which is probably, I don't know, tints normally aren't green. And I'm not going to worry about too much with shading, with the stripes and everything. I'm just trying to sort of demonstrate. So let's go in with, in fact, let's just do a 2-color blend. I'm not that familiar with tombow colors, so hopefully these colors are far enough apart that this works. So I think I've got 126 and 133. And if I do this the way I would do with Pitt pens, so I'm going to lay down a layer first of the lightest. Then I'm going to, oops, I thought that was a darker green. Oh well. Hopefully if I zoom in, you'll be able to see. I can get this to move. Now this is the smoother, older, the old UK Joanna Basford paper. Let's try that on the US, the older US Joanna Basford paper. So we're going to put down a layer of the lightest, some dark at the bottom. Sorry, I'm right down off. Oh, and I need a scribble sheet. Because don't forget, if you're doing blending with, the tombows like the water-based or the Pitt pens, you always need to scribble off the one that you used to kind of blend things out. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to zoom back in here, and we'll take a look. Can I get both on there? Hold on. So there is the tombow, just the 2-color blend, and I know they're not, the colors are pretty close. Maybe a darker color would have been better. That's on the UK, the old Joanna Basford UK paper. Not that old, just before pre Small Victories. That's what I was trying to get at. And there's on the pre Small Victories US Joanna Basford paper. Can you see the difference? The UK paper, I was able to grab some of that darker pigment and pull it forward. Future editing Connie here. I just want to say I said pigment there and I shouldn't have said pigment because there's no pigment in tombows. I was able to grab some of the ink. I mean, it's a dye-based ink, and pull it forward, but I should not have used the word pigment when referring to tombows. On the US paper, I can still see a line. Right? Now, I don't know, maybe I can see a faint line there too. But with the tombows, I can definitely see a line there. Remember, tombows are dye-based ink. And dyes, the colorants in dyes, soak into the paper. That's what a dye is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to be absorbed into whatever substrate you're putting it on. A pigment is supposed to sit on top of your substrate, and it sticks to the substrate because usually you've also got binders and that sort of thing included with the formula of the ink. So dye-based inks really aren't supposed to sit on top of the page and move. I think they do a little bit on the pre-Small Victories UK Joanna Basford paper because it's so smooth, right? it's almost polished. And so, there's not a whole lot of those little kind of paper fibers sticking up to immediately grab the ink and kind of wick it down into the paper. It's got, you've got a second to move it a bit. Whereas on the pre-Small Victories US Joanna Basford paper, it is rougher. So it's got a few of those little paper fibers, sticking up. They immediately grab onto the ink and just wick it down into the page, and you really haven't got time to move anything. So, yeah, there is going to be a difference between using water-based markers that are dye-based inks, like tombows, right? And Ohuhu puts out pretty much any of these kind of long, skinny ones that say water-based. Often they'll have a brush end and then maybe a fine tip end. They're kind of, I mean, I honestly don't know about the ink chemistry, but they're more or less all basically the same kind of ink, right? That's just, they're all dye-based inks. The other things that are added might be different. I think Tombow feels like it maybe has a little bit more glycerin in the ink, which again might allow it to do a little bit more sliding, right, on smooth paper. But Pitt pens are pigment-based ink, right, from those first two videos, remember? So the pigment is supposed to sit on top of the page. Now, it will eventually become permanent because the binders, the shellac, whatever they put in here, is going to bind it to the page when it dries. So let's do the other side of this tent with Pitt pens, and we'll see if we can see a difference in terms of how it looks. Oh, and I will say, because, kind of leading off of this question about do they sink through or do they go through? If you keep going over and over and over an area, no matter what you're using, if it's a water-based kind of ink, whether it be pigment-based or dye-based, and no matter what paper, unless it's super incredibly thick, cardboard, eventually it is going to go through. So, if you're coloring one tiny little area over and over and over and over again, eventually, even with Pitt pens, it's going to go through. But I will say that, papers like Joanna Basford, and I did grab a Kirby book because I don't know if I've done a whole lot of Pitt pen coloring in Kirby books, so I was curious about that. But with paper sort of Joanna Basford type quality, you don't have to worry about, you saw me go over, and I'll do it again here. So I've got, this is light green and May green. Again, probably didn't choose the best. And you see me, the way I'm holding this pen, way back, and I have it almost flat to the page. I had to get out a brand new light green because my other one dried out. Oh, I'm putting caps on. I think that's the first light green I've actually had to replace. And I've been coloring with Pitt pens a long time. The ink, they look like these tiny little pens, but the ink lasts forever in them. So, when you have a brand new Pitt pen that hasn't been, can you see the difference between those tips? Oh, too close. Too close. Can you see that? The light tip is like right to almost like a needle point. And the darker green, the tip almost looks a little frayed, a little mushed. It actually looks a little bit shorter, probably because I've actually flipped the tip on that darker one, and maybe when I pushed it back in, I pushed it in a little far. But the tip is a little frayed and mushed. That frayed and mushed tip is fine. You can color with that. You'd be a little bit more careful in tiny, tiny areas, but it's fine. And that's about as frayed and mushed as it gets. It's not like the entire tip goes. When you start, though, with Pitt pens that have a brand new needle point like that, you don't want to be coloring like this. Well, I mean, unless you mean to do tiny, tiny fine lines. Because that will mush your tip down a lot faster. And it's also, the tips on these are not soft. And coloring with the pen straight up and down like that, it actually might tear at the paper a bit. So when you have a new Pitt pen, and then, I mean, this kind of goes for all Pitt pens, you kind of want to use more the side of the nib as opposed to, you know, you're not coloring up and down like this. You're more coloring like this. Does that make sense? So if you're finding you bought yourself some brand new Pitt pens and you're like, ah, they're tearing up the paper and Connie said they wouldn't, it might be because you're coloring like this. So just try and keep them on their side a bit more. Once the tip kind of mushifies a bit, then it's not, you don't have to worry about it quite so much. So there, we did that side of the tent. And this was UK paper. Now we have the US paper here. Sorry, I'm not being super neat. That's interesting. Scribble off my lighter. All right, so UK on the left, US on the right. Can you see the difference? Sorry, I would straighten it out, but my desk shelf is kind of in the way here. There, as straight as I can get. UK, US. The UK, it's just this gorgeous blend. I mean, there's no line there at all. There's a tiny line for the tombows. I can definitely see a line on the US paper. It's a little rougher. And so it's going to grab that pigment ink and hang on to it. So yeah, Pitt pens on this UK maybe it's, and as far as I can tell, that's how the Small Victories paper works as well with Pitt pens. So yeah, Pitt pens they're just gorgeous on this Joanna Bassford paper. Smooth paper is good. The smoother the paper, the better. In fact, I think another one of my viewers commented that they had a coloring book that they had purchased and the paper was so smooth. They were trying all different pencils and nothing worked. Pitt pens worked because Pitt pens love the smooth paper. Now, the smoother and glossier the paper, you're going to have to watch because it's going to take them a while to dry. And so don't smear them with your hands. You know, you might think, oh, I got a beautiful blend there. And then you go to move your hand and it actually smears it because it's not dry yet. So, but yeah, Tombows, water-based pens, they're not going to act exactly like Pitt pens do. They're going to be a little different. You can still, on really smooth paper, get them to move a bit. On rougher paper, it's going to be tougher. So that was one thing that I wanted to talk about. Here we have Alien Worlds. What can I color in Alien Worlds? I still, by the way, for those of you, remember my pigment journey? All I've done so far is prehistoric. I promise more are coming. I promise. I still haven't finished this whip. This was the prehistoric pigments. Ugh. Just looking at it, I need to. But all I pulled out were pinks and greens. I don't know what I can do in here. Could be, oh, you know what? Am I gonna color? I'm trying to choose. Is that one at the front? I'm to choose a page where I'm not going to. So let's do, you know what? We've got, I think, or maybe the Northern Lights here. So let's see what we can do. So let's do a tombow first, just to see how this works. So I just grabbed some pinks, 703, 723. Again, I'm not real familiar with tombow colors, so I don't know if these are I don't know. They might not be great, but we'll just try. So I'm going to put down, oh, that's very bubblegum pink. That's not what I thought it was going to be. Oops. Well. And that's not real much darker. Oh well. Yeah, I'm having a hard time getting that darker pink to move. I mean, maybe a little, but oh my goodness, now I don't know what cap goes on where. There, like that. let's try, where's that other green I had? Let's try these two greens from Tombow, 133 and 098. Let's go down here. I mean, I love the way Tombows feel. They're a beautiful pen. They have, oh, that's, oops, it's more brown than green. See, I don't color often with Tombows, so I'm not familiar with their color palette. Oh well, I mean, it maybe, we'll let those dry. Maybe illustrates the blending troubles a little bit more. So let's go permanent green olive 167 and light green. That's going to be a big jump. Let's see what that does on this Kirby paper. So these are Pitt pens now. No, I can pull it. You see that? In fact, I'm pulling it. I'm actually going to scribble off my pen halfway through because I didn't want to pull the dark all the way down to the bottom. It's a little splotchy, but we're going to let that dry. So yeah, I can pull that pigment on, is this Kirby's newest? Forgive me if I'm wrong. I think it is. So this, you know, sort of is this, now this is a UK version of Kirby. I don't know if I have the US version. So I don't know if the paper is different. So maybe for those of you that know, can you comment in the comments below in case anyone's wondering? Is the paper in US Kirby books different than UK Kirby books? Because this is UK. Oh, I was also going to show, because I don't think I did in the other videos. So, or maybe I did. I've got a Pitt pen, Pink Madder Lake, and then I have a Stettler pigment brush pen, and this is light rosé. So you can combine the two. They work the same. So I'm going to put down, this is the light rosé. And this is a nice color in the Stettler range because there's not really a color like this in the Pitt range. There is a light pink, but it's more peachy looking. Whereas, I mean, this does have a tiny bit of a, oh, that's pulling it. A little bit of a peach undertone, but not as much as the light pink does in the Pitt range. So this light rosé in the Stettler range is a really nice addition. Okay. You know what? I have a blue here. Want to do a blue as well. So I grabbed the light indigo, and this is a brand new light indigo as well because the other one ran out. Light colors are going to run out, but oh my goodness, it took forever for these to run out. So they look small. There's a lot of ink in there. So this is a brand new light indigo. I love this color. And you can see it's not like I'm being careful. It's like, ooh, you know, one layer. It's more than one. Now, if you scrub at it, you may actually feel the paper almost pilling a bit. Like even here, I'm feeling the paper, it is peeling, not peeling. It feels like it's on the verge of pilling. And if I kept scrubbing at it, it probably would start to. So, you know, for as much as I keep pushing, extolling the virtues, how's that, of coloring with Pitt pens, we do have to remember they are still a water-based pen, right? So water and paper, unless you have sizing on the paper, like on watercolor paper, when you put water on paper, it's going to cause it causes the fibers to swell a bit. Some of the, here's a word for you, intramolecular bonds.
Wait, did I say intramolecular? Bad, Connie. I should have said intermolecular bonds. Not that many of you even noticed or probably care, but I noticed when I was editing, and that's wrong. I should have said intermolecular bonds. Bad, Connie.
holding the paper fibers together are going to start to come apart, and the paper is going to start to pill or peel up. You know, the basically the structure of the paper starts to break down. So these are, I would say, I sort of feel like there's less breaking down than with tombows, but if you scrub at the paper, you're still gonna, right? It's particularly like, say, Amazon paper. If you're gonna color with Pitt pens and Amazon paper, it is gonna, you are gonna get little pieces of paper coming up. So just a fair warning for that. So should we see if any of these went through? Let's take a look. Oh, of course, Connie did it on black background. Oh, Connie. Well, I don't see where there is, like, I don't see any damp spots on the back. Do you know what I mean? Let me, so down in this corner here, so down there, there's white on the other side of the page. So let's do some quick blends down there, and then we can truly say, we'll look at the other side of the page and we'll see, does something come through? I'm not even going to pay attention to what I'm doing here. Doing a little corner of this lava rock. No idea what's down here. And I don't know if you can see that or not. There's a little bit of streaking there when I, try and color in a larger area. There's, again, they're water-based pens. If you're, planning on using these for a large area, they're gonna streak. Look how much I can pull that pigment. In fact, I don't want to scribble it off. I'm going to start kind of... Remember I said in the previous video, the direction of your stroke can help you to either keep the pigment, where it is, or pull it further. So you can kind of play around with that. Now, I'm getting, I don't know if you can see out to the side here, I'm actually getting there's like little bits of paper on the tip of my pen. Because I'm going over this and over this, aren't I? But I want to see. I want to see what it does to the other side of the paper. So again, that was two greens that are, they're fairly far apart, right? It's right there, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. Can I... Should we zoom in? We'll zoom in. Zoom in as much as we can so you can get a good look. There. Kind of right there. I can see where the paper is warped a tiny bit. Like right there. There's a little bit of like a warp, a little bit of a, but I don't see where it's come through. I was going over and over and over in that, wasn't I? So this is, like I say, this is UK Kirby paper. I don't know if it's that different from US Kirby paper, but there we go. Yeah. So yeah, this is just sort of, like I say, part 2 and a bit. So I just wanted to look at whether it went through the Joanna Basford paper, and it does not. The older pre-Small Victories US Joanna Basford paper, you might find a little bit tougher to blend on, just because it's a little bit rougher. But I don't think it goes through. It doesn't go through the UK Kirby paper, with the caveat that if you work and work and work an area, particularly if you don't let it dry first, if you really want to work an area and you want to put lots and lots of layer of Pitt pen down, and you're worried about it going through, or you're worried about it, tearing up the paper, let the layers dry first. I tend to be too impatient. I don't do that. Now, letting them dry, you're also not going to be able to move the pigment and blend. But if you're just wanting to put down a lot of layers of color just to deepen and deepen and deepen the color, and you're not worried about blending, or you can put down lots of layers and then blend on your last layer, right? But if you let it dry between the layers, then you're not going to have to worry about, pilling or anything like that. And that goes for tombows and those kinds of things as well. Oh yeah, and if you've got the brand new Pitt pens and they're super pointy, just, try not to color like that. You want to lay them almost on their side, and you want to be coloring with this side of the marker. And that goes for the older Pitt pens too. But it's just that when they're older and that one's fairly newish. Where's a frayed? This one's frayed. Yeah, if you've got that frayed kind of tip, then it's maybe not so important. You can do a little bit of this coloring, but it is going to damage the tip quicker if you color like that. So you want to kind of have it on its side. Just, I think, kind of like almost any brush tip pen, right? I hope that helped. I hope it answered a few more questions. Hopefully there won't have to be 2.55 video, part 2. I don't know. Hopefully I managed to remember everything and get it in this time. But if I did miss anything, or if you have any questions, absolutely feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you like what you see, consider hitting that like button, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, leaving a comment, letting a friend know that you found a channel that you like and they might like it too. I hope everyone is safe. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone is enjoying their coloring, whether it be with Pitt pens or something else. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.